Hello and welcome to Take a Beat. My name is Tirzan. I'm the digital pastor here at IES. And this is Take a Beat, an IES Jakarta podcast where we invite you to pause, chat with us about things that matter, only to launch back on the beat. So I am here today with my good friend, Pastor Melisa Simanjuntak. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you.
And so I've actually wanted you to be on the show for a while, since last year, but This is when the stars aligned. So how about you introduce yourself a little? Tell them who you are.
Alrighty. So firstly, I am Tirza's friend, right? I am a pastor here in Jakarta. I attend IES. Actually, I've attended IES since my late 20s when I came back from abroad. So everyone's family here. That's right. I lead a ministry now. I served in a large international church before that, for about 9 years, I think, 9 years. Wow. And now I lead my own ministry centered around discipleship and worship. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So when I first met Pastor Mel, she was already at that international church, and she was at that point the youth pastor.
Yes, I started as youth
pastor. You went through even a few different roles in that church too, right? Yeah. Today we were talking about what to talk about on the podcast. Because between the two of us, there's a lot of things we can talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about many things. This could be a series for all we know.
An entire year of conversations with Mel and Tirza. Yep. But we wanted to talk about transitions because if our life is a book and it's divided into chapters, yours have been very interesting. So tell us a little bit about the different chapters in your life.
All right. So a lot of people, when they hear my story, they say that. They go, oh, it's so interesting. Yeah. To be honest, I just go through it, enjoy it. So I've never really said to myself, oh, my transitions are so interesting. But now at this season of my life, when I look back, I go, okay, it is a bit interesting. So I think I told you, actually my background is finance and accounting. So I was a chartered accountant. So I worked abroad, and you know what? I thought I was going to be CEO of some international company.
Have that always been what you wanted to do when you were little, an accounting? I wanted to grow up to do accounting.
Alrighty. So when I was younger, and my parents actually told me this, I would always pretend to be a teacher. Teaching my dolls, teaching my teddy bears, and in the car talking to myself like a teacher. Okay. So I always liked explaining things to people. Okay. However, when I started school and university, at that time in Australia, a commerce degree was the best thing that you could do, right? So I would say I fell into it, but I'm very fortunate that I fell into finance and accounting and I didn't mind it.
Okay.
I didn't love it, but I didn't mind it. And I was good at it. See, that's the thing. When you're good at it, you're like, okay, I can do this, right?
It pays.
Yeah, it pays. Corporate sector, I'm in a fancy suit, I'm 21, what else, right? So, no, I didn't always want to do accounting. Okay. But at that time, I thought, okay, this can take me places. I'm a very driven person. So, like I said, I thought I was going to be a CEO of some company or do this forever, basically.
So you got your finance and accounting with commerce?
It was a commerce degree, yes.
In Australia?
Yes.
How long did you live in Australia, by the way?
Okay, so this is where it gets a bit interesting.
Okay.
So I was born in Australia. Okay. And my brother and my parents.
Where in Australia?
In Melbourne.
Okay.
I'm a Melbourne girl.
I like Melbourne. I like how the city is a grid.
I'm from Melbourne because I'm in brown, black, white, gray, very gloomy colors. So I was born in Melbourne, and mom and dad got married there as well, and they lived there for over 30 years. When I was 9, we all moved back to Jakarta, right? When I was 16, we all moved back to Melbourne.
Okay.
And then when I was 29, we all moved back to Jakarta.
Okay.
So I've had a dose of different cultures. So that's my background.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds, I mean, I know people who've moved even more, like back and forth, but I think just moving like that actually helped me, I guess, in my ministry, because I understand different cultures, I understand different people, and I adapt quite quickly. You have to, otherwise you don't have friends. Like,
Yeah, because you said you moved first back to Jakarta at age 9.
I couldn't speak a single word of Indonesian.
Did you have an Australian accent?
I did. But again, when you're a TCK, a third culture kid, you learn to adapt even with the accents you use. So I remember coming here, and when I was about 10 or 11, I realized nobody understands what I'm saying, right?
That's right.
I got to tone down this strong accent. So that's what I did. And even now, it's some kind of international accent, which I don't know, but it works. So, so yeah, I couldn't speak English, but then when you're young, you adapt, you learn really quickly.
You couldn't speak Indonesian.
Sorry,
right?
I couldn't speak Indonesian, but I learned really quickly. And
then you went back to Melbourne when you were
16.
16?
Yeah, I did high school.
How was that change? Because being a teenager and then moving, were you receptive of the change, or were you like, oh, I don't want to move?
No, okay. Actually, I asked my parents to move.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do high school there. So I grew up reading all of these books like Mallory Towers, all these like private school kids and everything. So I had this dream that I would be in a high school, like riding horses, like and wearing like a blazer, a winter uniform. Like I had this, I'm gonna be like that. So praise God, that's what happened. I did go to a private school there and wear the blazer.
Horses?
No, I didn't. But I played netball. All these like unusual sports that I'll never play again. But we all moved back, and I adjusted very well because I think I had a plan. I was very driven.
Are you a planner, by the way?
I am a planner. But not even about the planning. I think I was just so excited to be in that setting, the school setting. And I came in at 16 and went straight into this study. And I realized that schooling there is like a year behind Asian schools. This is what I felt and experienced. So when I got there and I did maths, I was a genius.
You're like a superstar.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so smart, even though not really, but because, their education is a little bit behind, right? So I was like a super genius when I got there, right? I'm like, oh, I've done that, right?
Especially in like maths and science.
Yeah, maths and science, yeah. Everything else, it was new, like the history and all that, So I enjoyed it, and I made a lot of good friends. So I'm fortunate that I adjust quickly with transitions. And I think that's because from a very young age, I learned to change my mindset very quickly. Right.
So question, so you graduated with your degree in commerce, and so you worked in finance and accounting, yes?
Yes.
In Australia?
Yes, and that was, now that I'm mature in the faith, I can say it's a miracle. So at that time when I was in university, Australia went into recession.
Okay. So
everyone's looking for a job. So in the second year of uni, it's common for people to go and find, we call it vacation work.
Okay.
Like summer programs, right? Now, how it works in a lot of like, at that time, the Big Four, is that if you join the summer programs and you excel, they will give you a contract for later on when you graduate.
Okay.
So praise God, I did well. And so I got a job like in the second year of uni.
Okay.
And I didn't care about the last year of uni because I was like, I got a job, right? Yeah, it was hard because we were all competing, right, to get into the Big Four and everything. So, I worked at this company for a chartered accounting firm at that time for 5 years.
Okay.
That's including the vacation work. And I know people say stuff about accounting, about everything. It wasn't really, it was audit and there was a bit of finance. I had the time of my life. Like, I thought it was it was so fun learning, but also the friends and just, all the parties. Okay, mind you, this is before I had a real relationship with Jesus, okay?
It's
It was parties and then just meeting CEOs and seeing how they work.
Okay.
I had a great time, in corporate.
So when did you move to Jakarta? Or when you moved to Jakarta, were you still doing accounting and all of that? Okay.
So I was working there, and then one night, okay, I don't know if I should, I'll tell this story, it doesn't matter. Right, one night I came back from going out partying, right? And I sat down on my bed in my apartment, and I remember saying to myself, well, I'm really lonely. I feel really empty, which was unusual because I had a lot of friends. Yeah. I was popular at work. It was nothing to complain about, really. Yeah. But I just felt, there must be something more to life. And so a few weeks later, I called my dad because I had moved out. I lived on my own. And then that's what you do. That's what you do. Yes, that's what you do when you earn your own money, right? And then I said to my dad, I think we should all move back to Asia, right? And I wanted to go to Hong Kong, actually, because I'm like, that's like the, business hub. I'm going to be like this super rich, ambitious woman. I have this plan, right? And my dad said, why are you going to Hong Kong? You're Indonesian. Go to Indonesia. It makes sense, right? Yeah. So we all moved back. So, my brother also moved back with me. And so that's how we all moved. And I was ready to move because I just felt, I've been there, done that. Now
and when you moved to Jakarta, you worked in finance and accounting, or not? Or
well, I did, but I worked in a bank. But when I arrived, I decided to be adventurous. So I traveled Europe. Did the whole thing, backpacking. I took intense French lessons for 3 months.
Are you still able to?
I don't remember a single word. 3 months at CCF, like the cultural center, right? Then I went to France to actually practice the French. Came back and forgot everything, right? But that was like a whole year of just relaxing, right?
It's like your eat, pray, love year.
Yes, it's more like YOLO year, really, right? And then after a year, I'm like, I need to get some money, right? I need to support myself.
Pay your bills.
Yeah, I need money to live, right? So I started working in a bank, an international bank here. Now that was hard.
Okay.
Right? Now, in hindsight, I don't know whether it was because I was emotionally immature or maybe the culture was toxic. I don't know, maybe a combo of everything. But I don't think I navigated that season very well. It was very stressful for me. And adjusting to people, the way I worked, I realized the way I worked was very Western because obviously I learned everything abroad. And that was a bit of a culture shock working there. Yeah. Just people moving differently. That's how I'm going to put it. They just move different
corporate culture.
Yeah, corporate culture and just the way.
Or culture in general.
And it was hard. I don't normally cry, but I remember crying to the managers there. I was talking and I just cried. I said, "It's really horrible here," and she just looked at me shocked, "It's not horrible. What you talking about?" And now it's horrible, right? So I left. And I was still searching at that time. I always had a feeling there's something more to life. It can't be just this. Because at the bank, I was earning good money. And I wasn't walking with Jesus wholeheartedly. So I'm still doing.
But you come from a Christian family, yeah?
Yes, our Christian family.
So that's kind of the background.
Yes, I grew up a Baptist. I was baptized in Jakarta in what was Kebayoran Baptist Church. I still have a lot of friends from there. The whole family grew up a Baptist and got baptized at 12. And because I like to read and learn, I knew all the Bible stories back and forth, but as we all know, information is different from heart transformation and revelation, right? So when I was here working in corporate, it was very something's missing. Something's missing. And I wasn't really going to church because I didn't know the church landscape. Should we go into like how I got to IES, right? So then I did a short stint in the Australian embassy, but between that, my auntie had mentioned, why don't you go to this church? God, this is like a funny joke there, but my auntie goes, this international church, itu gerejanya Ari Wibowo, right? You know, like, you should go to that church, gitu. And at that time, I'm like, who is Ari Wibowo, right? You know, I don't know who that person is. Ya pokoknya itu bahasa Inggris, gitu, right? So I'm like, I'll go, and it was still in Stako at the time.
That's right.
And I didn't really come with a good attitude. I was complaining because the basement parking looked like it was a
ridiculous
Twilight Zone. I'm like, well, what is this, right? You know, but anyway.
And that's when our auditorium was an L, right?
Yes, right? So I get there, and the Baptist girl who never claps during worship, suddenly everyone's like chaotic. They're all like Pentecostal. I'm like, what's going on? Why is someone on stage singing wearing a hat? So disrespectful, right? No, legit, that was all going through my head. But,
also, I'm pretty sure that's also when Pastor Misha was going through lots of hair transformation.
I don't remember, but that's all in my head, yeah? Like,
yeah.
My face is stoic, but like the head is like, what's this crazy people, like, you know, right? But somehow I knew like, oh, this is great. It's in English and I can understand, right? So the thing is, and people underestimate this, when you don't have friends going to church, it's actually not as fun, right? So there's like less motivation. So I still used to like skip going to church and everything, and there's no online, obviously. If you skip it, that's done, right? So then one day, I was in my apartment and then I said to myself, I have to do something about this. Like, I feel so unhappy. I need to find friends, like Christian friends, right? So then at that time, IES was still putting pamphlets like on the chairs. Bulletins.
We're still killing
and it was
trees.
For the Young Adults Fellowship, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like yeah. So they had barbecues, right? So I'm a type of person, I can go to things myself. No problem for me. So I went to the barbecue myself. I still remember this. And no one spoke to me. I'm like, well, no one's friendly, you know. But I understand, like, it's just not, you know, it's just, I don't know.
Okay.
But
I was not in the young adult
I know some of them, the alumni from YAF. This is no shade to all of you, but I wasn't mad. But I was like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
So then Yuli, you know Yuli, right?
Yes, I do.
So Yuli reaches out to me because she's like PR for YAF at the time, right?
Yeah.
So she tries to hang out with me, and we're the same age. So like, you know, hey, let's go Ambassador Mall, have pork. And I thought, and I have to say, I was arrogant at the time. I still have that problem now, but like, I remember thinking,
God's working through
pork
you.
in Ambassador? Like, I'm hanging out in Lois and all that. I'm not going to Ambassador to have pork, you know, right? Like on my BlackBerry, I'm like, apa sih ni cewek, gitu kan, right? And I rejected her so many times. Like, oh, no, like, oh, I'm busy, you know, right?
Yeah.
Poor Yuli, right? She's my best friend now, but like, and then one day I said, I'm gonna join a life group, right? And I forgot whether the life group, it was a fair or something, and I saw that there was a young adults life group, right? It's in Da Vinci at the time.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
So I go there after work, and because everyone's most of them are executives, they're all in suits, so I'm like, oh, I'm at home, right? You're right. I walk into the multi-function room, and then it's like slow motion. Someone turned their head around. Hi, and it was Yuli, and I'm like, why her?
I said
no. Why did she have to be here, right?
Okay.
It's like, hi, Mel, right? You know, right? So that was actually the start of our wonderful friendship, like. And
thank you for being persistent, Yuli.
Yes, I still credit her for being like my first friend, my first healthy Christian friend.
Yeah.
And then I started to go there regularly, and it was actually in that little life group that I discovered more of my teaching skills and organizational skills, because the leader at the time, Steve, delegated a lot to me. Like, can you like do this?
He's really good at delegating.
Yeah, he is. He is really good at delegating. Like, you know, can you do this, do that, right? I was not watching, but
he was my youth pastor.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. So that's when I started to teach and lead, but I was still working in corporate at that time, and I realized I really like leading small groups. Like, I feel very fulfilled. And so I started one in my apartment, and that ran for a year. In my little apartment, like 15 people, all cramped. That ran for like a year and a half.
Let me ask you this: how did it switch from you being in corporate and getting serious about your faith to I'm gonna be in ministry?
Okay, so I wasn't like, I'm not a PK like you, so like I'm not familiar with how church works. Like, you know, I just attend. So when I started serving in that small group, I just served because I enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed it. And then I started to go to IES South at the time because my parents live in Pondok Indah. So I moved back there, and I met with, at that time, there was Pastor Bernard. And he knew, oh, sorry, I forgot a bit, but I'll get back to that. He knew that I was one of the leaders in teens at the time. So backtrack, so if you ask me how I switched, I feel now that I'm older, I look back, I think it's just always saying yes first to opportunities that come up. And not be like, but what if? Sometimes you just have to have a go at things. So, like I said, I'm gonna go back a little bit. When I was leading that group, Steve asked me if I wanted to be one of the leaders in teens. And the way he asked me was kind of funny. It was in Senayan City. So we're going up, I'm going up the escalator, he's going down, and he says, Melisa, wait for me down there. So I wait for him. Yeah, I'm going down, he's going up. So he comes back and we talk. He goes, I've got a proposition for you. I'm like, okay, what? Do you want to be one of the pit stop leaders, we call it, right? Pit stop leaders in teens. And I said, okay, sure, yeah, I'll have a go, you know, right? I'd never worked with youth before in my life, right? Right? So then he goes, okay. And I said, okay, should I be there, 10 o'clock on Sunday or what? You know, and he goes, no, it's actually Saturday at 6 p.m. And I said, oh, no. That's when I'm like single and I mingle and I go out. Are you kidding me? Because if it's like Saturday, it's gonna crimp my style. Like, what you doing? Like, you know. And he's like, no, just try it, right? And I did. And he gave me like the year 11, year 12s, I think the older ones. And I loved it. I just really enjoyed it. And I realized over time I was good at it. See, that's important. I think you have to assess if you're good at something as well, right?
But you can't assess whether you're good at something or not when you don't say
When you don't say yes. You have to try it out. Then you hear the response from the people as well, whether, you know, whether you're doing well or not. And I got a lot of good, I made a lot of friends. Like the youth became a lot of friends. Right? We had a lot of friends, right? So that's how I started in ministry. So if you ask me, how did you like from corporate? I think I just really followed the flow of my life. And I think I'm a goer, so I try different things. And failing is horrible. Failing is never a delight. I didn't like, it's understandable.
No one wakes up and be like, oh, I would like to fail today.
Fail, right?